our segments of Heroes to History, we're going to highlight Thurgood Marshall. I had a little bit stayed away from some of the well-known people, but in this case, I think with all the things I've talked about in the last few weeks and weeks before about education and things not being equal and this and that, it kind of shines on the landmark case of Brown versus Board of Education. So it all ties in together, and that's why I chose Thurgood Marshall for this week's segment on Heroes to History. So he was born, of course, let's see, I forgot already, but I know when he was born. So he was born in 1908, July the 2nd. So that was quite a long time ago, and unfortunately he passed away January 24th, 1993. But between that point, from 1908 to 1993, he accomplished things that people probably could only imagine. He was a hard-working man. Once he graduated college, and one of the things when he got ready to go to law school, one of the things he realized that the school he wanted to go to, I think it was a school in University of Maryland Law School, first thing he found out was that he wasn't allowed to go there due to segregation. And that's too bad that a person wants to get an education and can't go somewhere because these people got these erroneous rules that don't make any sense. But he got his revenge because later he did wind up suing, and he wound up getting that taken care of for the people that came behind him. So that was important. Thurgood Marshall was just a man of many talents, and he was always about the Constitution. It was instilled in him from his father growing up that how important the Constitution was, and so even though his grandfather was a slave, and they came originally was from the Democratic Republic of Congo, so they have a history of going back even prior to the United States. And then, of course, Mr. Thurgood Marshall was born here in the United States. So those are some things that just starts to lay out the platform for what Mr. Thurgood Marshall was all about. I'll give you some things that he accomplished in little compact areas. Not gonna go into. I can't even go into the history of it. It would stretch beyond this show if I even attempted to do that. So I'm just gonna give you bits and pieces of the things that Thurgood Marshall done over his lifetime. Things like in 1934 he began working with the Baltimore NAACP. Get those letters out correctly. And so that was in 1934. So that was a long time ago. He didn't waste any time from the time he got out of college. I think in 1933, from the time he got out of college, he immediately jumped right in and started participating in some of these activities to try to make sure people were getting treated fairly, and then making sure that no longer was the government was allowed to ignore the Constitution, but was actually willing to go toe-to-toe and all the way as far as he took it to the Supreme Court, which of course eventually he wound up sitting on the Supreme Court. And he worked very hard, and so a lot of times he would do things that he would take on different cases, whether it be people versus different states or people versus different people, whatever it was where he felt like someone was being discriminated against, that they would go out and they would fight for those people's rights, and this went on and on and on. I mean, in 1950, he won the Supreme Court victory in two graduate students integration cases where people was trying to keep them out of schools and trying to prevent them from integrating the school system what they deserve to do, because I always said, and you listen to my show, you hear me complain about this so-called separate but equal, and that's what the Brown versus Board of Education was all about. It was about the government saying that it was okay to have separate schools for whites and separate schools for blacks, and that wasn't okay. And then when he came in, and I think in 1951, prior to that, he actually went over to South Korea and in Japan and stood up for the U.S. soldiers over there that was being discriminated against, and he was always doing something to make sure that people was just simply treated fairly, not wanting anything for free, but wanting to make sure people were treated fairly. And then it continued to go on. In 1961, he was once again out there challenging the state of Louisiana for things that they were doing that was outside the lines and outside the Constitution. And he continued on that path. A lot of people he worked with and came across that supported what he was doing, and it continued in 1961. I talked about that. 1954, I want to go back because that was the landmark decision of Brown versus the Board of Education, simply saying that we were no longer going to be allowed to separate people from schools based on their color. No more segregation, but we were going to integrate. And that decision came down at 9-0, and he won that. And that was one of the biggest, I think, cases that Mr. Thurgood Marshall had won over the years that made such a significant impact on the way people do things today. That's why I consider him a hero in this scheme of things when it comes to the history, come to Black History Month. Because if he wouldn't have won that, we can only assume, who knows, whoever may have came along may have not came along. But if he wouldn't have gotten that done, then maybe today kids would still be, even though things we're integrated, but I still say we're now segregated by the fact that if you live in certain areas of town, your kids are not getting the proper educations. You know, I talk about that quite frequently about I feel the kids are not getting what they should get because they're not living in certain areas of town, when I believe wholeheartedly that if you're in a public school system, I believe that the taxpayer dollars should be equally split amongst the children that's in school, no matter where the school is located at. And we all heard me say it. I sing that song all the time. I'll continue to sing the song, and hopefully one day things will change. And until then, I'll continue to sing that song. But that was a landmark case, and everybody's heard of it before. Even if we don't know, even if people don't know exactly what happened, they know Brown versus Board of Education. They know that. And so just, again, anybody can go out there and research the stuff for themselves and see what's that all about. But it simply was about, in a nutshell, preventing the government from ignoring their own constitution and stopping them from separating kids by color and making them integrate instead of segregate. And he was able to pull that off, and thank goodness he did, because where would we be today as people, regardless of what the race color is? Where would we be if we still had all these separate buildings and separate schools, and you can't go here, you can't go to school together? Can you work together? Can you live in the same neighborhoods? Who knows what may happen? Maybe they had separate neighborhoods, separate schools, separate stores. I mean, can you imagine in the United States where everything was separate because of the color of one's skin? It would be ridiculous. So I'm glad that that this decision was, he fought and argued this decision successfully. And it's not like one person voted against it. Everybody voted for it. Everybody. So like I said, with a 9-0 defeat. And from that day forward, we integrated. Thank goodness for that. Thank goodness for that landmark decision that still resonates today every time we hear Brown versus Board of Education. We remember that. We also will remember that in 1965 that Mr. Thurgood Marshall was appointed to the U.S. as a U.S. Solicitor General. For people that don't know what that means, it means that basically he was hired to appointed to argue cases for the U.S. for the government in lieu of the Supreme Court. So that's what Solicitor General does. They go out there and they argue cases for the government that's going to be going to the Supreme Court. So that's my understanding of the Solicitor General. Anyway, if I got it wrong, somebody out there, I'm sure they'll tell me about it, but I got to be at least 50% right on that. So he did that, and then he also was fortunate enough in 1967 that he was appointed by then President Lyndon Johnson to the Supreme Court in 1967, where he stayed on the Supreme Court from 1967 to 1967 to 1991 when he retired. So he was on the Supreme Court for quite a long time. And then in 1993, of course, at the age of 84, Mr. Thurgood Marshall passed away. And but the legacy that he left behind, and the things that he changed in government, and the way he argued the Constitution, and the way he fought for civil rights and human rights for people all over this country, it's unparalleled. It's second to none. He definitely showed that even as early as 1967, where people, you look back today and you think in 1967, you start thinking about, well, you had the death of Martin Luther King. Well, within a 5-year period, you have the death of Martin Luther King to the years prior to 67, things going on after 1967. You had the assassination of Kennedy. You had a lot of things happening, but even through all that, he was able to make it all the way to the Supreme Court. And that to me is major. He's definitely a hero. If anybody don't know who Thurgood Marshall is, I don't know why they wouldn't. And I didn't give you a history of him completely, obviously, because it would stretch longer than this show could possibly go. It goes on and on and on. He accomplished and achieved so many different things in his life. So it's no way I can possibly sit here and go through everything. So I tried to just give you a small tidbit of what he has done. But like I said, you can always go out and check out these things for yourself. The hero started when he was born in 1908, and it's still here today. It has outlived his time here on Earth, even though he was here until he was 84 years old. Eventually dying of, I believe, congestive heart failure. But still, today, his papers and all the things he did, it still lives on. It's going to always live on, because that's what I call coming into this world and actually making a difference. And when you leave this world, the difference that you made is still going on today and will continue to go on based on what you did while you was here on Earth. I always say to people, not trying to be religious to anybody, but my thing is that you didn't ask to be here and you don't know where you're leaving. So in between those lines, you need to do the best you can. Now, if it's just for yourself, if it's for your family, it's for your friends, but don't let your life be a waste by doing nothing. So in between the lines, from the time you get here until the time you leave, that you're not aware of when that might be, you need to do the best you can. It's a lot of Thurgood Marshals out there if they put their mind to it. Today, ask yourself, are you a Thurgood Marshal, but you want to be one? You want your kids to be a Thurgood Marshal? When I say that as a metaphor, I'm saying to someone, when I say you want to be a Thurgood Marshal, that means, do you want to go out there and make something out of yourself? You want to go out there and change things and make new things happen, so as not necessarily just so somebody can say you did something, but if you have to have passion for the things you do. And if you do them in the right way, you too could be a Thurgood Marshal. And those are just my opinions on this Black History Month. This is Roosevelt with Roosevelt Live. Everybody that sees the show on Wednesdays, 6:30, and back again on Fridays at 6:30 on Bright House Channel 950 or 949, Verizon Channel 3036. You can even email me if you want to talk about something or whatever. You can email me at liveroosevelt@gmail.com or check out segments of the show. We're out there on youtube.com/Roosevelt Live. If you're not able to see the show on Wednesdays, or you're out and about on the road or traveling, you can always pop open your computer or your laptop, and you can log in to tbcn.org and just click on the follow us button and catch the show. Welcome back to Roosevelt Live. This segment of the show, we're going to talk about the new parking, the non-parking meters in downtown Tampa. I was downtown Tampa recently, ironically enough, down there to pay parking tickets. So now, since they don't have any meters, they have this new system, kind of like the one I saw in Ybor City, where you go up. I guess it's similar to it, if I can recall, where you go up and you have an option to use your credit card, which I would not do, obviously, because if you got to, buy $3 on a credit card, you need to re-examine the way you spend your money. So they have these new systems in downtown, kind of remind me of the one in Ybor City, like I said, where you go up and you put your money or your credit card and swipe it, and you get the little paper ticket, and you put it in the window of your vehicle. Don't forget to do that, or you'll be getting a ticket. Well, maybe you can always pull it out of your pocket and prove that you had that ticket during the time that you got a ticket, and you probably will get that waived away. But I'm not suggesting people do that, but I can see it being an option if you forget to put the ticket in your car. But anyway, it goes. It seems to be a good system on surface for most people, I would imagine. What it does, it makes a lot more money for the city of Tampa, because before, if someone put money in their meter and then they drove off, and then you went doing like I usually, like everybody else do, driving by looking for either open meter or open space, or a meter that has time left on it. So we always pull in there and pick it back whatever time was left on there, unless we had to add to it or whatever. But even we added to it, it was a benefit to us, because we added to time that was already there. So we got it for like half price, and sometimes you got it for free. So the city has actually come up, since they have decided to put these little boxes there, because now there's no such thing as a meter parking space, because there's no meters. So now when you drive up, you force everybody that come to downtown Tampa that I know of has to, I assume they all been done this way by now. They have to go and put their money or their credit cards in the little machine, and then that machine produces a paper ticket, and they put it in their vehicle. And so I'm sure the city of Tampa is making 10 times the amount of money they was making, because of the piggybackers that got to the little free meters and got extra time, which is nothing wrong with that. That's not illegal. But, and I say but, because before, if you were disabled Okay, and you had the little placard in your window that hung from your rearview mirror, or you had your tag on the back that showed the little disabled wheelchair symbol. You were able to park that I know of in downtown, and it didn't cost you anything, and justifiably so. Why shouldn't you be able to park down there? Most people that are a lot of people, I ain't gonna say most, I don't know, a lot of people that are disabled are not necessarily working. If they are, they're not working full time, so they can afford to come down here and do all these things. It's complicated enough to try and find a way to park. Being that the city of Tampa, if you ever come to this town and you need to get or you use some type of a cab service, my understanding is the actual cabs, the van cabs, they're just a handful of them. So if you are disabled and you have a motorized wheelchair or some situation where you cannot get out of that chair, the motorized cabs, my understanding was you have to call for those things 24 hours in advance. Wow. I mean, that's not looking out for the people with disabilities here in the Tampa Bay area. If that's the case, I'm not talking about these are little miniature buses that pick people up and take them to the doctor. I'm talking about an actual cab. There's not a lot of those things on the road. Now, I understand that before that there was at least a 24-hour pre-call to get that even available for you if you were traveling, say, into the Tampa Bay area from out of town, and you was coming through and you were using some type of apparatus, a motorized vehicle, whatever, to get yourself to and from. So when the city of Tampa decided for some reason that they were going to no longer allow parking for people that are disabled on an all-day basis, now it's a 4-hour window there. And I was thinking about that. You know, I've been in downtown Tampa, which I hate going down there because, like I said, I was down there just recently in January to pay several parking tickets that I had occurred over. I have gotten over several weeks of, you know, parking in areas where the meter run out, and, you know, some of these little crazy meters before, they only had, you know, 15 minutes, which you're never going to make it nowhere in downtown Tampa. It's just no way. But you were set up for failure. There was no way you were going to be able to run into any building, pay any bill, or go see anybody in any courthouse in 15 minutes. So you were set up for failure. And I'm glad that stopped. It was just robbery, highway robbery from the city. But when people with disabilities get only 4 hours, and I'm thinking, by the time you get out of whatever vehicle you're in, okay, and do whatever process you have to do to get out of your vehicle, and then go down a couple of paces to get to the machine, and then get to the machine and use the machine, get your ticket. You know, if you're a lady, then getting your purse out and trying to get to your cars or your money. If you're a man, trying to get into your wallet or whatever, or your pockets, and get the necessary fundings out, whether it be plastic or cash, to get that ticket. Then you got to take that ticket back to that same vehicle where you have to then try to figure out, you know, get in and put it in a perspective spot to where it could be seen when the ticket people pass by. Unless they're letting you hold that in your pocket, and I don't think so. And then you got to leave that spot again to head to wherever area you was going to. By the time you get to that area, if God forbid you're going to the courthouse, you can forget it, because by the time you get through that metal detector, and they go through all these changes with take off this and take off that, and if you're in a chair where you can't get out of it, then you got to go through a whole bunch of other processes. By the time you get to where you're going, you're going to have a ticket. That 4 hours is not long enough, in my opinion. And what happens if you work there and you're in downtown? Let's say you don't have a parking garage to park into, and some people may say, oh, there's other parking spaces, but it may be further away from where you got to go. And if you're disabled and it's raining, then you got to figure out already that you're going to get wet, so you got to figure out a way to kind of keep dry till you get to some destination. No one wants to be blocks and blocks away from where they're trying to go. The city of Tampa needs to switch back to what they were doing before. Allow people that's disabled to continue to park in downtown Tampa. You're making 10 times the amount of money you were making. So you're not going to lose anything by allowing the handful of people, or however many, I don't say a handful, I don't know how many it is, but it's less people disabled, I know, than people that aren't disabled. So those people can't hurt anything. Why not get them back to parking they had before? Allow those people to pull up there and park their vehicles and go about their business. They got enough problems and stress in their life to not have to worry about trying to find some type of a parking space, and then have to worry about getting out, then getting to the spot, getting the ticket, getting back to the vehicle, putting it back, then leaving the vehicle again, and then going to their prospective spots. It doesn't make any sense. Whoever thought of this new idea I consider just not being considerate of the people that already is at a disadvantage. And I think the city need to repeal that. I think they need to go in and take care of that. Someone needs to go revive that. I don't think they thought correctly when they made that decision. And they might say, well, I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, I don't care what they say. I say that You try being disabled then. You try and go through these movements 4 and 5 and 6 times in a row to go get something done because someone has made it complicated. Those people been parking in downtown Tampa all this time. As long as they got the proper placard in there on their rearview mirror or have their tag on their vehicle, then that should be good enough for the city of Tampa. And for that so-called 4-hour window saying, oh, that's enough time for them to get what they need to get, man, they don't know what they're talking about in my opinion. I think it's a bad move and need to be repealed. You're getting enough money from everybody else. Goodness gracious, you know you got enough money from me in the past 35, 40 days. I know I won't even say how much, but it was high. It was in the triple digits. Let's put it that way. And so, but hey, I don't have them out there no more. They've all been cleared up. I'm glad to see that the city's trying to move forward in certain things. But like I said, they need to even consider putting, I know cab companies, I guess those are individual, privately owned cab companies. I don't know, but the city needs to look out for all citizens. Not just some. We gotta look out for everybody. We need to have some type of service. We say we got the trolley, we got this, we got that. Well, how about having some way for these people to get around? They can't even use a cab. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's just, well, you know, again, there's no cabs. You can't. I guess you can't make the cab companies do anything because I guess they're gonna do what's economically feasible. And if it's not economically feasible to put a lift and other things in these vehicles, then obviously they're not gonna do that. That's a sad day though, because we all should understand that you never know where life might take you and where you might wind up at. No day is guaranteed. You walk today, you may not walk tomorrow, or you just may have difficulty getting around. You never know. So I think it's important that we keep looking out for all people, not just some people. And once again, the city of Tampa, whoever put this together with this, I don't know who was in charge of parking at the city of Tampa. I guess I need to have my producer research that so we can call them, ask them what their thinking was when they decided to change it from an all-day parking to a 4-hour parking. I would like to know, and I would also like to know whoever made that decision. Do they have anybody in their family that may be disabled? Maybe sometimes people are making decisions just based on themselves. I don't know how the system goes into play. I don't know who votes on what or how many people make this decision, but I'm sure my producer is going to jump on it, and we're going to find out who's making those decisions, and then we can call them and ask them what was their mindset when they made that decision, and that they should now think about it and repeal that decision and allow those people to park where they don't have to work. What if it's raining? It's bad enough for people that can get around on their own if it's raining, but just think if it was raining or bad weather, windy weather, cold outside. You got to make where I would get out and walk to the thing and get my ticket and walk back and then take off, run into some direction and get out of the weather. You people got to get out, go to it, go back to the car, go back out. No, it's too much and it's unnecessary. Take the extra money you made, the city of Tampa, and then respect the people that can't necessarily get around as good as others, and allow those people to not have to go through this repeated movement back and forth in order to go to where they're going. They're going to lose 30 minutes just going from the vehicle to the meter, from the meter back to the vehicle, then the vehicle back to where it started on their destination. They're going to lose 30 of those minutes already be gone. Think about it. Think about it and just change that one little aspect of what you're doing. And I'm going to move a little bit away from that into something else that I noticed yesterday. Maybe it was me. I don't know, but I'm going to. It's back, you know, we had this 40th Street construction. And it was brought to my attention, I didn't even realize that yesterday I travel 40th Street quite frequently. And every day, actually, I'm on 40th Street. And 40th Street used to have 2 lights. One at right after you come off of Bush onto 40th. You had a light about, you know, I don't know how far down, a quarter of a mile or whatever. There was a traffic light. And then there was another little bit further down. I can't remember exactly where. Maybe before you get to the bridge. I can't remember exactly where. But I know now there's no traffic lights on 40th Street that I can recall now. I think you can go all the way till you get to that school, the elementary school, before you see your first traffic light. I'm pretty convinced that that's the case now. Now, that would seem on the surface, oh, wow, that's cool. We got free-flowing traffic down 40th. But whoever create these roundabouts, and maybe I'm not intelligent enough to understand them, because I don't like the roundabouts. It slows down the traffic. I don't know why we want to deliberately slow down traffic to 20 miles an hour. That roundabout, that sign says 20 miles an hour. So all of a sudden you're going down 40th Street where the speed limit is 40, and then all of a sudden in the dark you're supposed to see that 20 mile an hour speed limit sign. Not only that, whoever designed this 40th Street travel has these side little curves that the people on 40th Street actually got the yield sign. I already know what's going to happen. It almost happened to me, but I'm not saying just because it almost happened to me, because if I'm traveling 40th Street, and all of a sudden, on a free-flowing 40 miles an hour, I come up on a yield sign. And the people that come across the lane doesn't have to yield. It's only a matter of time, people. those are T-bone cities. It's gonna happen because I don't think most people are gonna even see when they're traveling, at a regular speed, and especially at night. Are you gonna notice that yield sign at night? When somebody coming across the traffic, they actually got the right of way. How does somebody off a side street have the freaking right of way? I don't even understand how that's humanly possible. But maybe I'm wrong. But I know what I saw. I know when I almost hit that car because I wondered what that dude was doing, why he cut across in front of me. And I had to realize, well, he did. He was looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm looking at him like, what are you doing? But I realized I had the yield sign on a free flowing street. It makes no sense to have 40th Street flowing and then all of a sudden there's a yield sign there. And if you don't yield, which doesn't mean you got to stop, you're just supposed to look, see if you got the right of way. But if you're traveling 40 and there's a yield sign, if you hit on those brakes because somebody's going to cross in front of you, the person behind you is going to probably hit you too. I just think it's a bad idea. What's wrong with the traffic light? Why can't we keep the traffic light? Is we getting rid of the traffic light for what reason? Because some way the people that come out the side streets got to get onto the 40th Street. So if they can't get on by the traffic light, you think they're going to get on safely by that yield sign? Especially at nighttime, you're going to have wrecks on 40th Street, and there's going to be quite a few of them. It's bound to happen. It's just only common sense. I don't know who is these engineers, designers, or whatever they are that's drafting this stuff up and who's signing off on this stuff. But if you're going to have free-flowing traffic, well, I don't know why you just didn't put the traffic light back there. And I don't know the purpose of these roundabouts. Like I said, I ain't driving down the road now sudden you go into these roundabouts where we got to go all around all these crazy circles. The reason for the roundabout is to slow us down. But if we want to be slowed down, then why do we make 4 lanes? I don't understand it. If we had the traffic, the lanes were fixed up before where they said 40th Street needs to be widened because it was too much traffic on 40th Street, obviously, and it was backing up. So what you do, you give us 2 lanes on each side and turning lanes, and then you give us a roundabout to slow us down to 20 miles an hour. I don't understand that. So maybe someone says, well, it's over your head. You don't understand roundabout. I sure don't, because I don't understand the roundabout, and I don't understand the roundabout when I got a yield sign. And I can assure you, and I know it's not going to be just me. Someone else going to be coming down 40th Street. Now, I don't wish no damage or no harm on anybody, but I am concerned. I would not take, if I'm coming off that little side curve like that, I'm not gonna just go across it. I'm gonna stop every time, even though I don't have a yield sign, because you're bound to get hit. Because people are gonna be just going. They don't see no traffic light, so the only thing they're thinking about, I got free wheeling all the way through here, no traffic light. They're not gonna. People blow through yield signs every day. I see it every day. They don't even tap the brakes. They just keep going. And if you do it on 40th Street, you're gonna T-bone somebody. And if you slam on those brakes in the last minute, somebody's gonna rear end you. It's gonna happen, and I don't want it to happen, but I can see it coming. So once again, I understand the widening of 40th Street. It took about double-digit years, and they talked about it for quite a long time, and it's almost completed on the end between Bush and Hillsborough. It's almost completed. They're on look like the last phase of that part. Now I don't know if what they're doing across Hillsborough, but as far as between Hillsborough and Bush, they've almost completed that, and I'm glad because all those things in the road was kind of a headache at time to time, but I appreciate the fact that the street's been widened out, but it needs a little bit more light in that area now. I'm coming through there this morning around about 5:45, and I realized how dark it was in certain areas of that spot. So they need to look out for putting out some more street lights, especially at the bus stops, because if you can't see the bus stop, can you see the people that's at the bus stop? You would hate for somebody to get hit or anything happen to the people at the bus stops. I mean, somebody need to go down 40th Street, and those bus stops, the little green things where you sit up underneath, someone need to fix those lights. It used to be lights underneath those things where people was lit up. You could see the people. Now you're out there. I don't catch the bus, but you're out there in total darkness. I don't see where that make any sense. So maybe it's not up to me necessarily to call in. I'm talking about it, but maybe there's a phone number somewhere in there. I don't know that they can call in and report it to the city or whomever's in charge of fixing those lights, just like you do with the light poles. Used to be numbers on the poles. I don't know if they're still there now. You could call those in if you're in your neighborhood or whatever and report the outage, and they will come take care of it. So maybe the same thing applies there. And not, then whoever's supposed to be maintenance is doing the maintenance on those park benches to make sure they got light. Apparently, is not doing it. I'm just saying. I mean, in some parts of this town, they probably have a little storage. Well, in certain parts of town, I don't even think they have bus stops. Depends on how much money you make, I think. And if they did have one, they probably have a little storage there with some guy there 24 hours a day waiting for the bulb to blow out. And how do they have bulbs already in the back of the bus stop waiting to put new ones in? Now, I'm going to be a little tongue-in-cheek with that, but we do need to do something. So 40th Street, I don't know. I like the fact they've been widened, but I don't know why you widen something to pick up the pace and then put a roundabout to slow it down. But it is what it is. I'm not being paid by the city to make opinions or do anything. And I'm sure the city didn't ask me to be a spokesman for them. And I'm sure when I'm criticizing, they definitely want me to be a spokesman for them. So, but these are my opinions. This is what this show is about. Is that I'm the host. I'm Roosevelt with Roosevelt Live. And you can tell me your opinions.